Hey guys, this is Pam. In this video, I'm taking a look at the October 2020 Stories by the Month kit by Ali Edwards. And I'm going to be working with this kit to do a layout in this video, and then I'll share a layout in a second video coming up as well. So first, I'm just taking a look at what's included in this month's kit. As usual, there are a bunch of 3x4 journaling cards. Some of them have awesome designs on them, and others have space for journaling and to write your stories. There's also a collection of 4x6 cards. Same idea. Some are with journaling prompts. The others have just got some really fun designs to help highlight some of the stories that you're telling. In this month's kit, there's also these wood veneer banners that have some sentiments on them related to October. Some are related to Halloween, some are related to autumn in general. There's also a 3x4 stamp set that's included, and a set of chipboard, as well as some sentiment stickers this month, again with fall and Halloween type sentiments on them. This kit is available for a very limited time, just from September 13th until October 12th, 2020. However, there is a digital version of the kit that is very similar to this physical representation, minus the word phrase stickers and some of those wood veneer pieces, and that kit is available all year round on Ali's site. So what I'm doing is pulling some of the supplies that I want to use for my first project, and I am measuring the physical journal card because I want to be able to print my journaling directly onto that card without using a digital version of it. So I am working in Photoshop Elements, and I'm creating a new canvas for myself that's going to be 4 inches wide by 3 inches high to go along with what you saw there in my draft. And I am creating a guide for myself. I don't know if you can see this on your screen. It doesn't really seem to be showing up on mine at the moment, but I'm just creating a guide so that I can figure out how far or how much room I have to work with this journaling. So I'm going to be resizing the text here to make it just a little bit smaller, and then I'm going to resize the text box as well to be able to make sure that my journaling does in fact fit in the space that I've measured out on my card. So once I've got this all in place here, I am going to work on printing this onto my 3x4 card, and the way that I do that is by changing the printer settings in my Photoshop Elements workspace. I have a Canon printer. It is a wide format printer, but it's a very reasonably priced one. It's an IP8720 is the model of my printer. And in that printer menu, I have the option of creating custom print sizes that can be as small as 3.5 inches wide and 5 inches tall. So that's what you just saw there. Is I adjusted my printer settings. There you can see the guide a little bit better now. I adjusted my printer settings to be able to print that minimum size that it will print. And I'm going to cheat just a little bit, because even though that's considered the minimum printing area for the printer, I can still feed through a 3x4 card without having to do anything special to it. And you're going to see that come up in just a minute. I'm making a few more adjustments here before I actually send it through to the printer. I just wanted to make sure that it was exactly the way I wanted it to. Okay, so here's my printer. And I'm just popping the card in, and I can do this because with this model of printer, it has a rear feeding paper tray. So I can put the card in, adjust those sliders to make sure that the card is secure. You can see the printer is still drawing it in, and you're going to see in a second that it comes out at the end in pretty good shape. And this is super convenient. This is probably the thing that I love most about my printer. So there it is. The journaling's on the card and looking pretty okay. Just there was a little bit of an ink smear on the bottom right of the corner, but nothing that I couldn't work with or work around. Okay, so here is the rest of the printed elements for this layout. And I have to apologize now that some of this is going to be a little bit outside of the frame, but it does get better as we get into this further. So the base of this project or this layout is that it is a 6.5-inch by 8.25-inch photo for the left-hand side. So this is going to be one of those pages that lives outside of a page protector, and my plan is to just go ahead and punch holes onto one side and slip it right into the rings here. So this is the main page. This is a picture of my daughter eating breakfast one morning. The whole story that kind of goes along with this layout was that in the mornings, I am really not much of a morning person, and this is going into my album from September 2019 last year. So this is a story that happened one morning where it was a work day for me and it was a school day for her, and we sat down at the breakfast table and I'm eating quietly to myself, and she comes and sits down beside me with her breakfast, and the entire time she's just chattering away about all of the different things that are kind of going on in her life right now, all of the things that are important to her. And I'm listening to her, and it's impossible not to just smile when I start to hear her tell all of these stories, and the way that she is kind of interpreting these events in such a mature and grown up way. And just, I love that she's sharing kind of the thoughts that are all going on in her head. So after we had finished our breakfast, I grabbed my phone and I jotted down a few of the things that she said that I could remember right away. And that is pretty much what this layout is about. The other piece of it is that while she was talking, I took a few photos because it's so fun to see how expressive she is when she's telling me her stories. Even just in everyday life, there's nothing special about the content of what she's talking about, but her face just has the most like lively expressions, and I love watching her tell her stories. So the right side of this spread is going to be a 6x8 page with the 2x2 size pockets, and I have the series of 6 photos of her, and then I have 5 of the 5 quotes that I've jotted down for her as well. So my intention had been to speed this part up, but now I've been talking for the whole time. I'm so sorry. You're probably so bored at this point. I'm just finishing up trimming down these last few quotes that are going to slip into the pockets. And one of the things that I find is that I'm using my page trimmer, I'm measuring it to make sure that they're 2x2, but what I found was that the pockets that these cards are going into are not quite as precise as my page trimmer is. I'm sure that there's a couple of reasons for this, whether it's the pockets or the page trimmer measurements or just my interpretation of it, but I did have to go back and do some extra trimming on the edges of the photos and on the edges of some of the journaling as well, and that's, you can kind of see on the right hand side there all of those extra little paper strands from where I've had to trim down the photos and the journaling just a little bit more. So I'm arranging these pieces into the pockets at this point, just going with a really simple grid pattern, and yeah, it's coming together pretty well here. Now, once I have all of the pockets filled in, I had wanted to use the stamp set, and it's the stamp on there that says, "These stories matter." So you're going to see that coming up here in just a minute. The ink that I'm using is Ali Edwards Crafters ink, and this is the black color, so it's called Black Butte. And I'm going to go ahead and try just a test run first before I get into anything too major with stamping. Not that I ever really get into anything too major with stamping. My first thought was that I would just stamp it onto a 2x2 piece of cardstock and then tuck that into the pocket. And then I remembered that I thought it might look cool if I were to cut those strips out and then make it almost like a see-through pocket. The thing is, with this particular stamp, and I wanted to have just a little bit of a white border around that black text box. But the thing is, with this stamp, the lines are pretty close together, so I re-stamped it a couple of times so that I would be able to cut out each of those strips individually. That's what I'm doing now. Again, it's off the frame just a little bit, but I think you're going to see it coming up here. So I went ahead and I trimmed out the phrases so that I could have them individually in the pocket there, all of them together saying these stories matter. And then I started to think I wasn't quite the look that I was hoping for. I wanted to try something a little bit different. So I tried stamping the same stamp again in a different color, thinking that maybe the black was just too much of a contrast there. And then I found one of the 3x4 cards from the kit that's got this picture of a beautiful watercolor sunflower on it, and it has the same sentiment written in the strips that says, "These stories matter." So I decided that the yellow from that card would really bring the left and right sides of the spread together very nicely. So I went ahead and I trimmed that down to a 2x2 size, and it ended up being the perfect fit. And I think I was really happy that I decided to go with that journaling card instead of the stamping in the end. Wanted to add just a few little finishing details onto this spread. So I added a little bit of yellow stitching around the outside of the journaling card on that full page photo, just tying off the extra threads on the back there so that everything stays nice and secure. The yellow, again, was just nice to be able to bring it across both sides of the spread just for a little bit of continuity so it makes it look like everything belongs together. The other thing that I did here was I needed to make sure that I added the date in there somewhere, but I also found a cork number 6 in my stash because she was 6 years old at the time that we had this conversation, so that was just one of the details I wanted to include there. And then the last thing I'm doing is just adding a date stamp right onto the journaling card there so that it will go in chronological order within my 2019 album. Thank you so much for watching, and stick around, and I'm happy to share a second layout with the October Stories by the Month kit. Thanks, guys.